Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk to you about repotting, and I'm going to repot some orchids here. Well, I had a little emergency that I needed to take care of. I was watering one of the new orchids that I got from Akasuku, and it was in this pot here, this 5-inch pot. And I put that pot down into another pot that didn't have a hole in it so that I could soak this pot and not waste water. Okay, that's basically what I was doing. Well, then when I'm ready to take it out, I couldn't get the pot out. It got stuck. Plant was coming out, and it was coming out of its pot. So I couldn't get it back in this pot. The reason why I couldn't get it back in the pot was the roots had wound real tight around the top portion here. They weren't going down into the media. Now I have no idea when this plant was last repotted. I don't know whether or not the media was still good. Of course, right now the media is real wet, and I think it's breaking kind of easily, maybe not. I don't know if it was good or not. So since I couldn't get the orchid back into the pot, I need to repot it. I didn't want to do this because this is a new orchid and it needs to get adjusted to my situation, my environment here. Well, then I found out, the more I'm looking at it, I have 2 orchids. 2 separate plants. They were down in the pot like this. 2 leads coming out, one on each side. And I don't know, I just kept thinking maybe it's 2 orchids. And I put my finger down in the middle, and sure enough, I could feel 2 separate rhizomes, and the rhizomes were not connected here in the middle. So I've worked with the 2 plants here, separating them. Now, this is RLC Blanche, Asaka Yuki FCC AOS. So here is the tag. And hopefully that will focus and you can see that tag there. So we're going to repot these. And what I'm going to do is I've got some orchid bark from Better Grow. It's the only thing that I had that had large pieces. The only other media that I had is redwood chips, sphagnum moss, and then I have some fir bark, but it's really small fir bark and it's really more for seedlings. So let's get started. The other thing that I wanted to say was the pot I want to test it in. Well, I've decided to just plant them up separately instead of planting them together. I could do that, maybe plant them together, in a much bigger pot, plant them so that the 2 leads, the new leads here, are on the same side of the pot. That way it can continue growing in that same direction. I could pot this up and have a specimen. But I decided let's do 2 separate ones. Then I could test out 2 different pots. But then also, this then gives me another plant to grow into a specimen or gift it. Okay, so I have this really neat pot that I want to talk about, that I want to try with this orchid. I got this off of Amazon, and it is called Mesh Pot. And the nice thing about it is down along the bottom here is a little reservoir that I could see water if I wanted to, but then also it is an area and it's right in here that there's some air pockets, some little holes right in here so that air can get through and just really support the orchid and the media and get lots of airflow in the roots. Now, here's the cool thing about this pot. All I have to do is press down and it pops up. Is this not the coolest? Then if I want to look at the root system, I just take it out. Now, this particular pot, look at all the air holes there. Lots and lots of ventilation. So I just thought this was just a really neat pot, and I wanted to try it. Cost-wise, it was $20 for 2 pots. So I figured by the time I buy a clay pot, and then I buy a decorative pot to put it down in, or I get a plastic pot, and then I buy a decorative pot, I'm gonna pay $10 at least. So this wasn't a bad price. And then I can just press the plant back down and grow fine. Want to look at the root system? Pop it out. It's so cool. Now, it's going to be phenomenal if the plants like it and the plants grow very well. Supposedly, it's advertised that the grooves that are down in here, the ridges, will help the roots find their way down. We'll see. So I'm going to put one of them in here, in this pot here, and then I have to decide whether I'm going to use the original pot, reuse this one, or if I'm going to use this. We'll get to that and decide in a minute. Out here in front of me, I've got some sphagnum moss, the Better Grow orchid bark, which is the larger pieces of bark. It also has charcoal in it, and I believe this is perlite that's in it. And then I've got the redwood fibers. I'm just going to mix it up, just whatever I feel like putting in the pot. So the first one, let's get the little pot out of its container here. And let's start with, I think it would be better to just put some bark down in the bottom here. Just kind of weigh it down a little bit. Big piece here, let's just pop that apart. All right, I don't want too much because to start with, the plant that I've chosen to go down in there, look at the roots on it. Oh, and you can see here, see, this is what the roots looked like around this entire pot. Was just wound up like that. Whoops. Wound up. Look at this. I mean, it kind of makes me think the orchid really didn't like the media that it was in, because the roots weren't going down into the media. They were wrapping around the top, trying to get some air. Okay, so let's put this one in. Now look. I want you to see these roots. Look how long they are, okay? What I plan on doing with this, here is the lead. This is the new growth. So this is the back. I want the back up against the side of the pot as close as I can get it. That will give me more room in the front of the pot, or from one side to the other, for this plant to continue growing without having to repot it for a couple of years. All right, probably looking at these roots going, girl, you ain't gonna get them down in there. Look at them, they just want to flop out. And here's a little trick. I've already soaked, like I said, I was watering the orchid by soaking it, and I was actually soaking it in the kelp pack. And so they're already pliable because they are already wet. So I'm going to take these over here, I'm just going to wrap them around a little bit kind of down so it'll go in the pot, hold my finger, and these right here, this still feels like a live root. And I'm just going to wrap it up in there. All right, this long strand, I'm going to curl it, kind of like in a spiral form, so that I can get it down into the pot. Now this pot has got this nice little centerpiece here that will also get airflow up into the center of the potting mix. So we're just going to get those roots going down in there. Gently, gently, gently. Be mindful of any new root tips that you might have. And I don't need for the orchid to go all the way down to the bottom of the pot. Let's get this little baby here wrapping around. Okay, Now I can bring it back. Can you see here? Here are the back bulbs. I don't want to push it down to where I'm covering these back bulbs. I want those to remain up. I don't need them to rot. I could get rid of this back bulb here. At the moment, I don't want to do that. These are little storage facilities for the orchid, and it's already going to be stressed. A, it is stressed out because it was just shipped. 2, now I'm having to repot it, so this is going to stress it out. I could lose the potential of flowers out of this new lead. I could definitely have that happen, and I just have to be prepared for that. Okay, so I'm going to get some of this redwood, since we've already got some of the bark on the bottom. Let's kind of fill this in on this side here. Get that going down in there. And if I have to do one piece at a time of this other bark to get it down in there. And I'm lifting the plant up a little bit so I can get it down in here, get the bark kind of down in the spaces that I've got over here. Ooh, got some dust going. Okay, plant is standing up by itself. That is good, very good. Okay, a little bit, some redwood. And I can kind of look and see if we've got any air pockets. Still got some here on the back side that I can see. I probably should have used some of the smaller pieces of that, what did I say it was? The tree fern bark, the little small pieces. Okay. Okay, now what I think we're going to do is a little layer of sphagnum moss. Cover up these roots that are on the top here. This is the New Zealand sphagnum moss that I just also recently purchased off of Amazon, and we did a video of that where I am seeing how much 100 grams of New Zealand sphagnum moss, because it was the smallest brick tile. It was like a tile. Okay, I think this is good for now. Excuse me. We have, if we needed to, we could put possibly a little clip in here if we feel like it's not gonna stay down in there. I think we will be good with that. Put it in our little mesh pot here. There we go. Okay. Now if I need to, I can readjust the plant. I could stake this if need be to get it to grow a little bit straighter. We'll see what happens. Okay, welcome back. I took a quick little break and went and got some of the fine fir bark here that I might want to use with this second orchid. So here's our second one. Now this one definitely has some new root tips growing out here along the new lead. A lot of the mix here, you can still see that some of it is attached. to the roots. I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to leave that. I'm really trying to determine whether or not these roots here are good. That was definitely a mushy, very old pseudobulb. If I need to clip anything off, I want to make sure that I sterilize my cutting tools, and I do not have my butane or my propane or MAP gas. That's a really good one, gas tank that you could use to sterilize your tools. But we're going to use some alcohol and hope for the best. Just going to sterilize that. Side. Okay. Now, if I need to cut any of this, I do see some dead. That's coming apart in my hand. So we are going to cut some of this off. Yeah, definitely some rotted root tips in there. The way you can tell if they're rotted is if you press on a good root, they'll feel firm. They won't feel soggy, mushy. They'll feel nice and firm. Another way you can tell is whether they're good or not is if you can see the actual root inside of the vellum, that root is dead. I'm going to cut that part off there. This, you can feel the rhizome right here. You see the rhizome right here. I can feel a lot of that old rhizome. And there's some more in there that's dead. A lot of it is probably stained from the breakdown of the media. Saw another one over here. Okay, let's get this little baby potted up. Okay, now we have to decide what pot we're going to put it in. I want to make sure that it can go down in a decorative pot, and I want to also make sure that and get it out. Might have to lift the pot up, put something down in this one if I repot it into what it came in, just so that I can get my fingers in it and pull it out. Another thing, it could fit down in, I think, maybe, nope, won't fit in that one. This one will, though. That wouldn't be bad. It's just sticking up just a little bit, and it's clear, so that's not bad. And then I can definitely get my hands around it and get it out of this pot. Now, normally, I've always for years planted my Cattleyas in clay pots. I've decided now to make them a little bit more decorative. So I'm trying, this will be trial and error, new pots, plastic pots. Normally I plant my Phalaenopsis in these, in sphagnum moss. Because you're indoors, or I'm indoors, growing indoors in windows, and back over here you'll see I have supplemental lighting as well, but growing indoors, you don't have the humidity that you would outside, especially in the winter time. So plastic and sphagnum moss works really good for Phalaenopsis. Clay pots work good for Cattleyas. Cattleyas like to dry out so that clay will pull the moisture away from them. But I'm testing out, I'm seeing a lot of people are using plastic clear pots, then they can look at the root system. And so I'm testing these. Hopefully this will work and I won't have to go back to clay pots, because I'm having a really hard time finding decorative pots that clay pots will fit in. But you guys hold tight, because I am a potter and you are in my pottery studio and a growing space for my orchids. So I do plan on making my own decorative pots that the clay pots can go down in if I need to go that route. But for now, we're going to test this. I haven't lived here in this house for long. We recently moved from the state of Illinois back home to the East Coast, and so this is temporary, and I'm having to use this space as pottery studio, but because those are southern windows, I'm trying to grow orchids in there with supplemental light because it's under a deck. Anyway, I digress. Let's get back on track here, and let's pop this little baby up. So I think this one we will test, and she can sit right there, and she'll be fine. So let's see if we can get her root system in here. Okay, let's start with some potting mix on the bottom. Okay, same thing as with the last orchid that we just planted. I want to put the back bulbs here up against one side of the pot, and then the new lead will be more towards the middle of the pot. But right now I got to get these little roots to cooperate here. So like I did in the other one, let's get some wrapped around. This will make our spot, our, oh, how do you say that? This just gets the orchid itself a little bit more tidy so we can get it into the pot. Get some of these going down. Spiral this a little bit. And these back bulbs here now. Turn it around so you can see the front of it. Try to get, whew, that's difficult. This wad of roots right here. Okay, that's about the best it's going to do for now. It's not exactly where I'd like it to be. I did not pull the potting media out from these roots, so this is about the best I can do without breaking roots. Okay, take a little bit of this small fine fir bark and see if I can't get a little bit of that down in there. And that's the problem with this pot, it's all going to come out. Okay, this here is the redwood chips. Okay, pretty much got this top lead here, not the top lead, the lead that's in front of you. We've got that one. It's best I can get to the center. Make sure the back bulbs here are not buried too far down. Okay. Now I am holding this lead here to keep it from wobbling so much, but it's also protecting those new root tips that are under there. Okay, we're going to have to get some more mix. Sphagnum moss isn't going to hurt a thing. Let's put some of that down in there. Roots might actually like it if this pot and my watering schedule don't mesh too well. Maybe if the pot ends up drying out faster than I'm used to, because I'm used to growing in clay pots. Okay, let's get some more mix. We had some better grow is the only thing that I had that was the big bark chips. It's got some charcoal in there as well as some really big bark chips. Some was it pumice, something like that, whatever it's called. Little jiggle, little tapping, little jiggle. Okay, well, I'll keep working on this, and I will show you what it looks like when I'm done. So this video won't be too terribly painful to watch because it's getting a little too long, but you get the gist. This is pretty much what it's going to look like when I get finished putting all of the media in there. And then it'll just sit down like this here in my pot, my little decorative pot. It should be good to go. And again, this is the, where's her tag? I'll have to make a second tag now that I've separated the two plants, but this is RLC Blanche Asaka Cultivar Yuki, and it does have an FCC from the American Orchid Society, and that's one of the reasons why I bought the plant. It's a big white Cattleya with a nice red lip. I think it has maybe a touch of yellow in the throat. We'll put the picture up as well in one of the corners. Okay, so hopefully you can see the tag there. And we'll put the tag over here in the first one that we potted. And I will write down, in fact, let's do that now. I always like to write on my tags when I repot an orchid. So on the back side here, I'm just going to write repot, today's date, and we're good to go. Thank you for watching, and come back next time and we'll follow up on these orchids and see how well they're doing in the next few weeks to a month. Let's give them time to settle in. I will be putting I will soak this, both of these, because it's a dry mix now. I will soak these again in the Kelpak. That is a seaweed extract that I'm going to be using, and that will also, that's like hormones. It's a supplement, but it's kind of kick-starts the hormones of the plant, and hopefully I can get some more root tips and get some more roots growing on these new leads, and that'll just help establish the plant, and hopefully it won't be quite as shocking event that it's just gone through. So until next time, happy orchid growing.